May 1st, 1999. The Kids' Choice Awards have just ended. Macho Man Randy Savage has been slimed, and the credits are now rolling. Olympic gold medalist Tara Lipinski, Robert Richard, the human from Cousin Skeeter, and Bill Bellamy, cousin of Shaquille O'Neal and the puppet from Cousin Skeeter, are introducing the newest Nickelodeon animated series, SpongeBob SquarePants.
Right now, should we give it to him?
Yeah.
Give it to him.
Nickelodeon, the place to be.
First time ever seen premiere. It's gonna be great. It's SpongeBob SquarePants for you on Nickelodeon.
All right, get ready. Let's roll.
Or Nickelodeon.
Are y'all ready, kids?
Aye, aye, Captain!
And thus began what is now a 25-year institution. In the 90s, Nick had a much greater diversity of animated offerings than today, with traditional cartoons, Rugrats, Hey Arnold, The Angry Beavers, Cat Dog, and The Wild Thornberrys airing, and anthologies to shows Kablam and Oh Yeah Cartoons, which featured shorter cartoons also airing when SpongeBob made its premiere. Another Nicktoon, Rocket Power, would premiere later that summer, created by the same Klasky Csupo powerhouse behind Nick's most popular show at the time, Rugrats. So, SpongeBob premiered with lots of competition, meaning its success was anything but a guarantee. Having a huge event like the KCAs as a lead-in with one of the biggest athletes in the world telling kids to watch her crazy new show certainly could not have hurt. Help Wanted was viewed by nearly 3 million people, and it mostly got positive reviews. But the show was far from an immediate hit, not really catching on with kids until the start of the 21st century. Once it did catch on, though, it really caught on, becoming something we haven't seen in the realm of children's entertainment before then or since. The story of Help Wanted, and the story of SpongeBob SquarePants in general, didn't begin in May of 1999, of course. It began in February of 1994 during a surfing trip in Baja California. Steven Hillenburg, who loved the ocean, not just surfing in it but studying its wildlife, drew sketches in a little pad of shells, sea life, shipwrecks, and distance, according to Biddle Duke, who was on that trip with Hillenburg and recounted their experiences in the Surfer's Journal. Hillenburg, who was taking a break from his work on a different Nicktoon, Rocko's Modern Life, showed his sketches to others on the trip while they were around a campfire, and he explained that he would center his show on a sea sponge named SpongeBoy at the time, and the others thought it was crazy. Sponges are sedentary. They don't have features, Biddledoo pointed out, like eyes and mouths. They're just blobs that don't move. The 32-year-old Hillenburg responded, exactly. That's the gag, a sponge. He won't just be a sponge, he is going to be a common kitchen sponge. Though the others at Baja didn't believe the idea had much potential, Hillenburg continued to work on it, and after Rocko's Modern Life was canceled in 1996, he teamed up with some of its crew members, most notably Derek Drymon, Tim Hill, and Alan Smart, to turn this idea of his into a reality. According to Drymon, Help Wanted was storyboarded over 2 weeks, and he completed the storyboard with Hillenburg on June 3rd, 1997. They were able to arrange a pitch meeting with Nickelodeon executives later that summer, and the executives flew to Burbank, California from New York City to decide on whether Nick would let Hillenburg and his small crew make the pilot episode. During his pitch, Hillenburg entered the room dressed in a Hawaiian shirt, and he had an aquarium with little versions of the characters inside, according to Eric Coleman, who was vice president of animation at Nick in the late 90s. Hillenburg also rigged up a seashell that, when you held it up to your ear, played Hawaiian music instead of ocean sounds. As good as his presentation was, that wasn't what sold the show, however. It was the unique art, the interesting characters, and atmosphere Hillenburg was able to convey as just a lot of fun. The executives left the room to discuss the pitch, and Drymon assumed they would return to New York and let them know if their pitch was successful weeks later. Instead, they returned to the room after what seemed like minutes and informed Hillenburg and Drymon that they'd do the pilot. Everything we know about SpongeBob was already realized from those early days, like his personality that was described as a mix of Pee Wee Herman, Jerry Lewis, and Stan Laurel, as well as his friendships with Patrick and Sandy and his one-sided friendship with Squidward. All the show's locations, from SpongeBob's Pineapple House to the Krusty Krab, were already planned out, So the job for Hillenburg and the rest of the main crew of Dryman, Hill, and Smart going into production of the pilot were to take what has already been established and turn it into an episode of television that people would want to watch. They succeeded, and SpongeBob SquarePants, changed from SpongeBoy Ahoy for legal reasons, was greenlit by Nickelodeon as a full series.
His show's a real hoot. He lives in a fruit. SpongeBob SquarePants big sneak peek right after Kids' Choice.
When you start Help Wanted, the first thing you'll hear is the French narrator, voiced by Tom Kenny, who also voices SpongeBob. The French narrator is based on Jacques Cousteau, host of the Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau, a show Hillenburg loved as a child. According to Kenny, Cousteau's voice was very dispassionate, very removed, very flatlined. So Kenny did a more playful voice for his French narrator. The next thing we hear is SpongeBob's ship horn alarm clock, some of the stellar work of sound designer Jeff Hutchins. We meet SpongeBob for the first time after this, without his square pants, and then we meet this monstrosity, an early design of SpongeBob's pet snail, Gary. After he puts on his iconic pants and lifts what are technically weights, he jogs to the Krusty Krab and we meet his best friend, Patrick Star, who cheers SpongeBob on before getting badly hurt. The Krusty Krab, based on a restaurant Hillenburg worked on during the summers he spent with his parents in Maine, is lovingly described by SpongeBob, who seems ready to apply for a job there until he isn't. Developing cold feet, SpongeBob turns back, but he finds Patrick in his way, who has not only recovered from his injuries, but has followed SpongeBob all the way to the Krusty Krab to hold him accountable. After some words of encouragement from his pink friend, SpongeBob regains his confidence and marches towards the Krusty Krab again. Squidward, whose first appearance in the series is fittingly him trying, and failing, to clean up insulting graffiti of himself, sees SpongeBob preparing to apply for a job, and he rushes into the Krusty Krab to try and convince his boss, Mr. Krabs, not to hire SpongeBob. SpongeBob makes a great case for staying unemployed, however, as he trips over one of the restaurant's many safety hazards and, well, he drops to the deck and flops like a fish. Instead of just saying he won't hire SpongeBob, Mr. Krabs decides to send him on a wild goose chase, telling SpongeBob to buy a super rare spatula that Krabs made up on the spot in exchange for a job. As Mr. Krabs and Squidward mock SpongeBob for falling for Krabs' trick, the Krusty Krab is surrounded by buses filled with everybody's least favorite pizza topping. The hungry anchovies storm into the restaurant and attack its two employees. Why, oh why, do bad things happen to good people? Just as they're about to die, SpongeBob returns with the spatula he promised to get, and he uses it to cook Krabby Patties for the anchovies in the show's first great sequence, with the freedom, the silliness, and the childlike joy that would make SpongeBob one of the biggest shows on television in a couple of years. Set to the tune of a Tiny Tim song that depleted the episode's budget and led to it being excluded from the Season 1 DVD, it was an expense that turned out to be more than worth it, helping to create one of the show's most memorable moments less than 8 minutes into its existence, one that would leave a lasting impact on many who would watch on its premiere night, and in the years after, including a young me. Just like Steven Hillenburg had to ignore the doubts of those around him to get something as weird and as insane as SpongeBob SquarePants made, SpongeBob had to ignore his own self-doubts and the doubts of his would-be boss to get his dream job as a fry cook. These emotions are universal, and the anxiety of applying to a job or doing anything where you don't know what the outcome will be is universal too. It's a simple story with a simple lesson, but it's part of a much bigger story, one that started years before most people even knew what a SpongeBob was, and one that continues 25 years after that post-KCA's launch with no sign of an end coming anytime soon. Thank you to Hillenburg and everybody responsible for the joy that this little square dude has brought us, and I hope he continues bringing it for 25 years more.
Just think about me, I'm just as free as any daughter. I do what I like, just what I like, and how